What's going on? It's James here with Crypto Common Sense, and I wanted to shoot a little mini market update for today for October 21st because of what's going on with Bitcoin and because of all the euphoria that's kind of coming into the marketplace. So wanted to talk about that real quick. Before I jump into the content though, please do me a huge favor, hit that thumbs up button, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and of course you can check the description for links where you can support the channel. So listen, I get it. Bitcoin went up today. It's exciting. If you're holding Bitcoin, it's awesome. It went up like $1,000. So first things first, if you're holding Bitcoin and you're a bull, congratulations. You had a big day on paper, right? Unless you sell the Bitcoin, all these moves don't mean anything, right? They just don't mean anything, guys. How many times has Bitcoin went up $500 or $1,000 only to come right back down, right? So unless you're taking profits, my advice, don't get too emotionally invested in the moves. They don't mean anything over the long term, right? A daily movement or a weekly movement doesn't mean anything. Now, the big news today is PayPal. Pretty big news. I mean, there's no denying that's really big news, and I do think it's going to open the door to more people getting involved in the space, which is a good thing, right? It's certainly a good thing. Does it affect price? Don't know, right? Don't know. We'll have to kind of wait and see, but the thing is before I even jump into like too deep into these charts, hopefully by now, if you've been watching this channel anytime at all, you're already identifying what's happening right now. Hopefully you're looking at this going, I've seen this before, right? What is this? Think about it. What happens when you have giant candles, green or red? What happens? They create gaps. So now we have a brand new gap sitting at $12,000. Price is sitting way up at $12,900. And guys, I'm not short. I did not lose any money on this move. So somebody yesterday said that, sometimes I sound like a salty bear. I have nothing to be salty about. I have the HODL portfolio that is going up in value. I sold some of it at 11,560 or 70, something like that. Bought it back when it dipped down to 11,307. So, I was a little nervous about buying it back, but I did, and I'm up. And, other than I had a couple of losing trades on the move, but I had more winning trades than losing trades. So that's, it's just one of those things where I don't believe in it. And I don't believe in it because of what's going on with stocks. But still, for what it's worth, let's say this is a bull run. Let's say this thing is going up to 50 grand. Okay, that's fine. It can go up to 50 grand and still come back down to fill in the gaps, right? It can still come back down and fill in this gap and still come back down and fill in this gap. Like I talked about in earlier videos, this one's a little bit more sketchy because you had all this price action right before it. But this is a legitimate gap that's not filled in. You have a legitimate gap over in the CME that's not filled in. So what happens is every time there's some big news, people blow it out of proportion. They act like this one event is going to be what catapults Bitcoin to new all-time highs. Well, I was very, very aware of the time of the year it was, because last year, this same week, was my worst week of trading in, I would say, my whole trading career. Because yes, there were worse days and worse weeks during the bear market in 2018, but I was still like early 2018, I was really still figuring things out. I wouldn't even say I was really a trader. I was kind of throwing money at the wall and seeing what stuck. But from the point that I got, a system in place to now, my worst week ever was late October 2019. So I was just sitting back waiting for some bullshit like this, right? I was like, I know it's coming, right? And in fact, I posted about it on Twitter. I did not know which way it was going to go. I did not know whether it was going to be some giant red candle out of nowhere or some giant green candle out of nowhere. But I felt like there was some big, FU move coming. That's what I was talking about 2 days ago on the 19th was, feels like a big old FU candle's coming. Here we are. Suddenly this PayPal news breaks, right? Right around the same time the market's already looking like it wants to throw up one of these huge candles. It's just suspicious, right? It's really, really suspicious. But yeah, this was October. And if you remember last year when this happened, There was some news that came out about China, and China was, supposedly endorsing Bitcoin, right? Not what happened at all, but that's what people were saying. And of course, price pumped about 30 to 35% over like a 3-day period, or like 2 days really, right? And I remember when I was getting short back here, I was taking a lot of heat for it. People did not agree with that decision to still be bearish. They were very excited about this taking out this high back here. And in all fairness, I understand why they were excited. There was some accumulation, like a month-long accumulation period. And I wasn't super confident. It wasn't like I was sitting there going, oh, I know I'm right. Right? I was definitely nervous, and I was taking a lot of profits and taking a lot of scalps through here, instead of trying to hold a position trade down like I should have, right? But look, it's really not that different. Now, somebody pointed out on Twitter, correctly so, that the previous trends are different. In this case, we were downtrending, and then you had this basically dead cat bounce. In this case, this thing has been uptrending since March, right? So does this matter? I think it matters a lot. I'm not saying that I'm getting bearish. I'm not saying that I'm suddenly shorting Bitcoin just because it went up $1,000. That's not how that works. All I'm saying is, you get people on social media who I don't even think they mean to. I think they're just really excited. So they get super euphoric and they start posting all this stuff about, we're going to 14K, we're going to 16K, we're going to 20K and all that kind of stuff. And they're excited, in all fairness. I really don't think they're being malicious. But the problem is then people kind of forget themselves and think, oh God, I got to get in before it goes to 15K. Or I got to get in before it goes to 20K. Those are certainly possibilities. It could be that it goes straight there. I mean, it's definitely possible. But statistically speaking and historically speaking, even in bull markets, even in bull runs, Bitcoin will retrace before it makes its moves, right? It always retraces. Now, is it guaranteed? No. So when I say the word always, don't confuse that for has to. They're not the same thing. Historically, it always has. Doesn't mean it always will. But me personally, if I wanted to invest in Bitcoin, I don't want to invest in Bitcoin when it's overbought on every single meaningful time frame. Here's the daily chart sitting way up here over 80 RSI. Gee, what happens historically when it gets to that level? Oh, yeah. Here's the 3-day sitting in overbought territory. Has taken out some key resistance there, right? Hasn't closed yet though, keep that in mind. Here's the weekly coming up into what? Overbought territory, and that weekly resistance line that I talked about in the last video, right? Also coming to the top of the wedge, and it depends how you draw this wedge. If you draw it like this, where you're trying to get these touches here, it's a little higher. If you draw it like this, it looks like this. So that was the wedge I'm talking about. And this is kind of what happens with trading, is people get kind of sidetracked by the big news, right? So many people are focused right now on this PayPal thing that I seriously doubt many people, I'm sure many people are, but a lot of people will be blinded by that and not be looking at the charts, objectively looking for shorts and longs. They'll only be looking for longs, and that's fine, right? If that works for them, that's great. But I'm looking at this going, this is all one giant dead cat bounce. So when I'm looking at it, I'm the opposite. I'm looking at it through bear goggles, right? Because I don't believe this move. Why don't I believe this move? It all goes back to stocks. If this move was happening and the stock market looked healthy, I would probably be very bullish on Bitcoin. But I can't be bullish on Bitcoin when I'm bearish on stocks, right? I just can't. It would have to completely break away from any correlation for this to go up during the stock market, having a bear market, which we don't know if the stock market is going to have a bear market. But it did that today, in all fairness. This is a daily chart of the US 500 or the S&P 500. You can see it's actually had a red day, whereas Bitcoin had a massive day. So that is definitely not what I would have expected. That's the opposite of what I would have expected, right? Also, what was very interesting was the dollar actually, it doesn't look good. I talked about this, I believe, on my Patreon. I can't remember where I put it now. I think it was Patreon. But this started to look really, really rough. Put in this, head and shoulders type of pattern in RSI. That makes me a little nervous on the DXY. But today it did have a couple of strong 4-hour candles. So the dollar was pumping while Bitcoin was pumping. Again, very strange behavior, right? Very different from what we've seen in the past. And it could be a very bullish signal. So keep that in mind. That I can't explain that away. I can't, or I shouldn't make it sound like no big deal. It's definitely something that you want to keep an eye on. Also, the other thing that I'm keeping an eye on is the total market cap, because yes, it's great that Bitcoin is pumped. Yes, it's great that Bitcoin went up, tag 13K or whatever it is. There's just, you know, this small little problem that the total market cap did not put in a new high, right? Total market cap is still well below its August high. So what's actually happening right now is the same thing that happened in the summer of 2019. People are fleeing alts, and when they sell alts, if they're trading alt pairs, they're actually buying Bitcoin, right? You trade the alt for Bitcoin. So that buying pressure combined with the short squeeze could be what's pushing this up. And if the total market cap is not gaining, what that means is new money is not entering the space. It's just the same money, wash trading, right? Just moving between different coins. That's all it is, right? It needs to push up and make new highs. Now, it has been moving higher than last year, so that's bullish, right? But well below 2017, even 2018 levels, right? We're just moving sideways this whole time. So I don't know. I really don't know, you know, what to think of that. I don't know whether I would say I was cautiously hopeful or bearishly skeptical, you know. I'm a little of both, I guess. I mean, if the alts were all pumping and Bitcoin was pumping and total market cap was going up and breaking this high, I would feel a lot better about it, right? I would feel, okay, this is pretty cool. This is probably a new bull run. But because the total market cap is not pumping, you know, past its old high, it's a little tough to get super bullish. The hopium here, and let me jump over to Twitter again because I posted a lot of this on Twitter. The hopium would be that this is accurate, right? This is that chart that I first, you know, talked about a couple of weeks ago, saying that I did not think this is what was happening. But if you were a bull, that this was a legitimate scenario that could play out. And when I first posted it, it looked a little different, but this was the updated post from a few days ago. So I first posted it, looked like this, right? And what this is right here is this was our current price action. This was February or early 2016, right? Right before the bull market really kicked off. And there were some striking similarities between these two charts and their RSI. And if you look now, or well, 21 hours ago, it looked like this. And now we suddenly have this huge candle up. So it looks even more similar to that. So maybe that's it. Maybe this is 2016. And maybe what we're actually seeing is that part of the bubble. I think I have a bubble chart somewhere in my timeline here. Maybe what we're actually seeing was this whole rally. Maybe this was March back here, right? And this whole rally, maybe this is disbelief. This is where people thought we were last year, and I didn't agree with that. This year, I'm a little more open to the idea, and I've been a little more open to the idea. I talked about it maybe a month or so back, that maybe that's what was happening. But I'm still not convinced, right? And it all goes back to stocks. And I think it's one of those things where I'll look back in a year from now or maybe 2 years from now, and I'll either look back and be like, man, you were really on point, and you know, it's awesome that you stuck to your guns. Look at you. Or I'll look back and be like, gosh, James, why did you let, you know, all that stock market stuff mess up your TA for crypto? Why didn't you just keep them separate? I don't know which one of those scenarios was going to happen, but one of them will, right? Either I'm right and the stock market is going to be, you know, the end all be all when it comes to crypto, or I'm wrong and I should have just kept trading crypto as its own entity. It's tough to say which, right? It's really tough to say which. But if this is indeed the suckers rally, if you want to call it that, then, you know, it could be disbelief. So does that mean I want to go buy Bitcoin? No, same deal. I just want to wait for proper entries, right? Here's the problem with trading. Let's say that you are bullish on Bitcoin and you want to long it at 13K. Where the hell do you put your stop loss? Where do you put a stop loss, right? There's really no legitimate place to put a stop loss on that long. You could just kind of guess at a random number, but then you might get stopped out and it might keep going up, right? And of course that can happen in any trade, but I'm saying realistically, where would you put a stop? I mean, would you put a stop down here? Okay. So you're going to say if it drops below 12K, well, that's a $900 loss per Bitcoin. So how many You know, how many percent of your portfolio are you going to risk with $900 per Bitcoin? That's a huge drop, right? That's the problem with trying to buy tops like that, or potential tops. We don't know if it's a top. Hell, this thing might shoot up to 50 grand tomorrow. We don't know, right? But on the flip side, if this is a bull market, and it does what bull markets have done in the past for Bitcoin, they always have retraced. Again, that's not to be confused what they have to, it's just what they have done. So let's just say this thing goes up to the top of this wedge. And in fact, we'll even draw it, make it a little taller wedge just for shits and giggles. Let's say that it goes way up here to 13.4, okay? Your 61.8 golden pocket is still way down at 7,500 bucks. I talked about this until I was blue in the face in 2019. People FOMOing in at 10K, 11K, 12K, 13K. And over I said, if you want to invest in Bitcoin, more often than not, it will retrace to the golden pocket. It will retrace to the golden pocket, blah, 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 like a broken record, right? And if they'd just waited for the golden pocket, they could have been buying Bitcoin at $7,200. Now, it still dropped to 3 grand or 4 grand, excuse me, in March, but that would have been a lot better than buying back here, right? So if you start looking at the time frames of everything, watch this. Put some dates on there from the low in 2018 to the highest close, not the highest peak, but the highest close in 2019, 34 weeks. If you go from the low in March until the election date in November, 34 weeks, right? People love these historical comparisons to these past bull markets and these past bear markets where they last, such and such number of months and then they crash for 12 months and then they last for, such and such months and then crash for 12 months. Well, what we're seeing right now is the market is repeating the exact same 8-month pattern that it took last year. And now it's repeating it again. So you have to ask yourself, what do you expect to happen? Do you expect this to suddenly continue going straight up for the first time ever in Bitcoin's history? Or do you expect it to have some type of correction? Not necessarily a crash, but a correction. And, I showed you that chart just a second ago of 2016 where it went parabolic, right? Look at this. From early 2016 back here, that's where that 3-day chart is taking place. Boom, parabolic. So it lends this belief that, oh gosh, well, if I hadn't gone in, I was screwed. But if you zoom in, you're going to see a different picture. So this is early 2016. This is the pump, right? And what happened after that huge pump from $350 to $785? It pulled back. There's the golden pocket right there. You see it through a tail right down through the golden pocket. And let's say you missed that one. You were still like, nope, not a believer. Don't believe it. Not happening. This is not real. Okay. Measure it up. And it pumped from $483 all the way up to $1,175. That took out the previous all-time high from 2013. Now you're a believer. Should you FOMO in at $1,200 or $1,100? No, because what happened? The very next candle, it dumped to the golden pocket, and you could have bought at $747. Okay, well, you're still not a believer. This was all fake. This was just, manipulation and games being played. I'm not buying Bitcoin. Okay, fine. Measured up from January of 2017. This is after the parabolic run had already started, and measured up to the high in March of 2017. It pumped up from $734 to $1360. Should you FOMO in at $1,000, $1,200, $1,300? No, because what happened? Bitcoin dumped down to its golden pocket. In fact, it went below its golden pocket. So another chance to buy Bitcoin at $900. And then if you missed that one, should you FOMO in? Oh my God, FOMO in, FOMO in, FOMO in. Measure it from the low to the high. No, because what happened, it went to $3,000 and then it dumped. And this was one of the few exceptions where it did not hit the golden pocket. It barely missed it right there. Okay, this is one of the few times in Bitcoin's history it didn't hit the golden pocket, but guess what? It did hit the 50. And if you keep doing this, and I've done this in past videos, so some of you are like, dude, you've done this before, but not everybody has seen those old videos, so that's why I'm doing it again. If you measure the next move from 1758 to 49.80. What happened? Right after that, threw a tail down. Where did it throw the tail to? The golden pocket. This is during the parabolic blow off top of 2017. Even in a parabolic blow off top, it still retraces time and time and time again. The sole exception to this was the last quarter of 2017. If you measured this low to this high, it pulled back to the 50, maybe not even the 50, just barely shy of the 50. That's the exception. But even in that case, it retraced almost 50%, right? And then finally this final move went straight up. And then where did it come down to? The very first pullback, the golden pocket, okay? If I sound like a broken record, it's because I want you to approach these markets with logic and common sense and not with FOMO and emotion. This is how Bitcoin acts in every single market in its history. It is not guaranteed that it will do it again. There's no guarantee that it will ever retrace. Let's be very clear about that. But if you are playing the probabilities, the probability is even if this is a bull run, even if this is a bull market, it will retrace at some point. So let's measure this up. How far did this retrace? Not even to the 38.2. How far did this retrace? Down to the 23.6. How far did this retrace? Not even to the 38.2. So now we keep drawing this over, and right now our golden pocket is way down here at 73.50. And even if this is super parabolic and super strong, and if this whole COVID thing threw a wrench in things, the 50 is still down around 8,500. 38.2 is still down around 9,500. And I don't know about you, but I'd rather buy Bitcoin at any one of these levels versus that level. And you might be saying, yeah, but James, you don't know. It might keep going up. It might. So let's play around with that. How high would Bitcoin have to go straight up without correcting before it would make sense to buy Bitcoin at $13,000? Well, let's see. When does my golden pocket get higher than 13 grand? So if Bitcoin somehow reaches, we've got to change our scale here. If Bitcoin somehow reaches up to about $28,000 with no corrections, that'll put our golden pocket down around 13,000 bucks. So when I'm approaching this, what I ask myself is, do I think it's more likely that this will pull back at some point? Or do I think it's more likely it'll go straight to 28 grand without correcting? And the obvious answer is, I am happy to sit and wait for a correction if I want a long Bitcoin spot, right? Now trading is different. I'm trading every single day. Everybody knows that by now. That's what I do. But if we're talking about buying and holding Bitcoin, I will wait for the proper retracement. I said this all through 2019. It got so annoying that at one point I thought, man, I'm going to stop talking about Bitcoin altogether. It is not rocket science, guys. It is a matter of not letting this market get into your head and scare you, right? If you want to invest in Bitcoin, by all means, that's your decision to do that. But just make sure that when you're investing, you're looking at the whole picture and saying, am I investing because I'm freaking out? Or am I investing because there's a logical reason in this chart or in the world to do so? If you think the PayPal news is a reason to invest, by all means, that's your call. I don't think it's reason to invest. I think every time we have big news in this market, the market overreacts to it. The market shoots straight up only to come back and correct days later. It's the way all markets work. That's the reason there's a cliche, buy the rumor, sell the news. What is PayPal? Is that a rumor? No, it's news, right? It's broke. Everybody knows about it now. So this pump happens. A lot of really big people know it's going to happen. They long Bitcoin and they're just longing it on a trade. And then when they sell Bitcoin, you know, who's left holding the bag, right? That's typically what happens. Again, I'm not saying that's what's going to happen this time. And I'm not, trying to be overly bearish here because like I said earlier, there's different structure this year than there was last year. We've been in an uptrend versus a downtrend. I acknowledge all that. I agree with all that. And if it wasn't for the stock market, it wasn't for COVID-19, it wasn't for all these outside factors, I would be much more bullish than I am. But we're not even really talking about being bullish and bearish, right? Talking about this retracing or talking about this pulling back is not about being a bear. That's the whole thing that gets lost in this market is just because you say, oh, I think Bitcoin's going to pull back or Bitcoin's going to drop 3 grand, doesn't mean you're a bear. Even bulls, even traders who are bullish recognize the fact that no market goes straight in one direction forever. If it goes down too fast, it will correct up. If it goes up too fast, it will correct down. It's called a correction for a reason. It's correcting the market, okay? It gets too far away from its mean or too far away from its average, and then it has to come back and correct down to it. So if we look at all this and we look at our moving averages, how far away from the 200 moving average are we? We are really far away from that 200 moving average. It's still down under 10 grand. And here we are sitting up at almost 13 grand. Look at that. It's a difference of over 30%. What happens historically when Bitcoin gets too far away from its moving average? Too far away, correct. Too far away, correct. Where does it correct to? Normally back down to that 200 or close to it. Too far away, correct. And again, all these, if we put the fibs back on there, these are all those 61.8 retracements that we just talked about. Okay, same thing in a bear market. Gets too far away, corrects back up to it. Too far away, corrects back up to it. Too far away, corrects back up to it, broke through it. New bull run, boom, right? Even if it's only a 6-month run, it's still bull run. Not necessarily a bull market, but bull run, boom. Too far away, back down to it, right? It's the same game. And you can look at any stock chart, you can look at any, precious metal. They all do this. They get too far away from their moving averages, and then they correct back to them. So me personally, am I taking profits? I'm not taking any profits. I'm not taking, what I mean by that is I'm not selling any of my spot at 13K. Do I think it's going to retrace? Yes. Am I going to sell my spot? No. It's not, something that I want to sell. It's still a hedge, and I don't know how high this thing goes, right? If this is a blow off top, which it could be, it might go much, much higher. I'm just going to sit on the spot, right? But I'm certainly not going to be adding to my positions. And I know this, I said this was going to be a mini market update, and here I am going almost 30 minutes depending on how I edit this. But I just felt like this was really important because I get on Twitter and sometimes I like to stir the pot a little bit just to kind of see what the reaction is. And today was one of those days where it's like, here come the people with well, stay poor. I'm not poor. And if Bitcoin stopped existing today, it wouldn't change my future. And if Bitcoin goes to $1 billion tomorrow, I'd say it wouldn't change my future, but it would because I have a couple of Bitcoin. But you know what I mean? Like this whole idea of pinning your hopes and dreams on Bitcoin is stupid. It's a stupid way to approach things, right? You can't be logical. And that's the reality right there. You can't approach a market logically when you're putting all of your hopes and dreams and your future on the idea that Bitcoin has to go up, right? If you can't make a living or you can't do well trading or you can't do well at some kind of career that you already have and your only chance in life to get rich is Bitcoin going way, way up, yeah, you're going to be very illogical about it. And that's what happens in this market. It's why it's so cult-like. Right? If you say anything that's like negative about Bitcoin or anything that's not bullish, it's like they just jump all over you, right? It's weird, very weird. But I think I'll go ahead and wrap up there, guys. Again, some really important stuff, some really interesting things in the market. Definitely, a decoupling, at least temporarily, from the stock market today. So that was super interesting. And a lot of things that I want to keep an eye on. I don't want to get too overly eager on any shorts or longs on a positional or swing type of level. I will definitely be sticking to the smaller time frames, probably the 4-hour and below for right now on Bitcoin. And I might, it depends, but I might chill out on crypto the next week or two until it kind of makes its mind up. And I might just focus on stocks because I did move half my trade fund to stocks last week. So we will see how that goes. All right. All that being said, please remember, I'm just some guy sitting in a spare bedroom. So nothing in the video is financial advice. You should always do your own due diligence and seek out professional financial advice from a licensed financial advisor before making any type of investment in cryptocurrency, the stock market, or precious metals. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure and give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And if you have not already, make sure you check the description for some links where you can support the channel and keep more videos like this coming. Again, this is James with Crypto Common Sense reminding you to please trade safe.